Honorable Madam Speaker.
Almighty God, who is in your wisdom and goodness, has appointed the officers of leaders and parliament for the welfare of society and the just government of the people. We beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servant, whom you have been pleased to go to the performance of important tasks in the republic. Let your blessing descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we read and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our church. Amen. Flag order. Next order.
Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Next order.
Order number 3, messages.
Next order.
Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Next order.
Order number 7, statement.
Next order.
Order number 8, motion. Protection of critical water sources by enforcing strict regulations on sand harvesting and water obstruction along the rivers.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand to move a motion, protection of critical water sources by enforcing strict regulations and sand harvesting and water obstruction along the rivers. Aware that Isiolo County is predominantly arid and semi-arid and depends on seasonal and perennial rivers as the main sources of domestic and livestock and agricultural water. Concerned that uncontrolled sand harvesting, illegal river diversions, and obstruction along riverbeds have led to severe environmental degradation, destruction of riparian ecosystems, reduced water flows, and increased conflict over scarce water sources. Acknowledge that Article 42 and Article 43 1D of the Constitution of Kenya guarantees every person the right to a clean and healthy environment and to clean and safe water in adequate quantities, and that Article 69 obligates both the state and citizen to protect and conserve the environment. Appreciating that implementation of specific national government policies on natural resources and environmental conservation include soil and water conservation, and forestry is a function of county government according to fourth schedule of the Constitution. Noting that the Environmental Management and Coordination Act, EMCA 1999, the Water Act 2016, and the National Sand Harvesting Guideline 2007 provides a legal framework for regulating and harvesting water obstruction and protection of riparian reserves. This assembly therefore resolves that the CECM undertakes a county-wide audit and mapping of all rivers, riparian reserves, and water intake points to identify degraded sites, illegal diversions, and critical water sources requiring urgent protection. And the county government too, the county government allocates sufficient fund for enforcement, restoration, and community sensitization programs on sustainable water source protection. Honorable Speaker, the protection of critical water sources by enforcing strict regulation on sand harvesting and water obstruction along the rivers. This is a very critical situation whereby along our rivers, especially in along the river line between Isiolo and the Hatches Post, whereby several sites right now are used for harvesting the sand. Is creating, is going to, as a long term, in long term, it's going to cause a lot of harm to the flow of the river, whereby we are going to have inadequate water. You know, the sand usually store water, and when we harvest almost all the sand, you expect that after a river dry, this is a seasonal river mostly. Usually in February, the river dries up, and usually the communities depend on the shallow wells for watering their livestock and even for human consumption, because not all the area closer to those closer to river have drilled and potable water. So most of the community who are the pastoralist lifestyle, who moves away with their livestock, usually depend on this sand after the flow of the water is affected by the rain from the upper stream. So the control of the sand harvesting to a specific sites, at least not that everybody get his own group or registration and go and find a site for himself and then start now harvesting. And now every group now all over, you know, that is going to be a big damage. And as a county, we need to have the policies that oversee the sand harvesting from now. We are proposing that the CECM, who is at the water sector, for the water sector, is going to map those areas which are right now degraded. Because you know there are some areas in our upstream, the lower stream, like in our area, like Mirti. Right now, unless it is the rainy season when the water is for now, we are not to the side of south, and usually the flow of water during such rainy season, the water flow, and there is that swampy area and some where the water usually disappear. But now these days, and then it becomes swamp, and people depend on that swampy area for grazing during dry season. But right now, all those trend has stopped, and people usually the usual swampy area where the grazing are done during the dry season completely now are depleted. So identifying and mapping those areas and trying to reinforce now the normalcy of flow begin, and also control of the sand at the site. All this is going to be very helpful, and we are calling the county government sector water executive to act very fast and put in place the policies that control the sand harvesting, and also mapping the areas and protecting the areas which are at danger. Thank you. I welcome. I call for Mheshimiwa Camilla for secondment.
Camilla? Yes, stand to second the motion. Motion of critical water sources by enforcing strict regulation on sand harvesting and water obstruction along the rivers. That aware that county is predominantly arid and semi-arid, and depends on seasonal and perennial river as the main source of domestic livestock and agricultural water. Concerned that the uncontrolled sand harvesting, illegally river diversion, and obstruction along riverbeds have led to severe environmental degradation, destruction of riparian ecosystems, reduce water flows, and increase conflict over scarce water resources. Acknowledging that Article 42 and Article 43(1)(d) of the Constitution of Kenya guarantees every person the right to clean and healthy environment and to clean and safe water in adequate quantities, and that Article 69 obligates both the states and citizens to protect the conserve of the environment. Appreciating that implementation of specific national government policies on natural resource and environmental conservation, including soil and water conservation and forestry, is a function of the county government according to the 4th schedule of the Constitution. Noting that the Environmental Management and Coordination Act, EMCA 1999, the Water Act 2026, and the National Sand Harvesting Guidelines 2007 provides a legal framework for regulating sand harvesting, water abstraction, and protection of riparian reserves. This assembly resolved that 1. The CECM takes a countrywide audit and mapping of all rivers, riparian reserve, and water intake points to identify degrade sites, illegal diversion, and critical water sources requiring urgent protection. And 2. The county government allocates sufficient fund for enforcement, restoration, and community sensitization programs on sustainable water source protection. The floor is open for debate. Honorable members.
Madam Speaker,
Mheshimiwa Abu.
must stand to contribute to this motion about the sand harvesting and water obstruction along the rivers. One of the main sources of problem in our county is where we lack control from the county government about the natural resources we have. Madam Speaker, as a county, we ought to have someone who controls even the sand harvesting, which are mostly in Burat Ward, where even the Meru County, who has over 2 million population, comes and gets sand from our rivers. This has a great impact on our land and the flow of the river. When it's done over a long period of time, harvesting of this, it creates some loopholes for water not to flow naturally the way it is supposed to be. When the sand is being taken from somewhere for a long period of time, it interferes with the natural flow of the water. So even the flow to the downstream there in our wards is affected by the continuous sand harvesting, which is not controlled. Without control, human beings is nothing. We are animals. Without control, without any proper control that is guaranteed by only government can guarantee a proper control on a day-to-day maintenance. Madam Speaker, as a county, we need to have a serious stakeholders which involve even from the assembly side, from the community side, from the county government, so that we can have a long-term solution to this perennial problem. Madam Speaker, it has a lot of as a natural impact on the environment as a whole. When you go down to those areas, you'll see a lot of puddles which is digged by those fellows who are after sand. But in the long run, it will have a lot of effect on our county and environment at large. So we need to be proactive in our approach and come up with a long-term solution, not just and knee-jerk short-term solution, but a long-term, which involves all the stakeholders. And we need to have a serious debate about it. Not for a one-day motion, no. We must come up with a bylaw to regulate this sand harvesting so that it cannot even obstruct our water, not going to the downstream. We have a lot of river problem. In Wasonjiro, during 90s, it was almost like a permanent river. But now you see that the river flow has been affected, and this is one of the main reasons is the sand harvesting, which happens here upstream in the towns. So as a county government, if it is there, I doubt if there is a county in place, we need to come up with a solution that we sort out this mess. It is a mess. We are having a lot of problems down there. We lack water for our animals, water for human consumption, and generally water is a very essential needs for our community. So, Madam Speaker, I urge you to take this matter seriously so that we don't just debate today and leave it here. We need to talk. This needs serious talking. As a county, if it is there, as assembly, we come up with solutions so that in the long run, our environment should not be degraded at this rate. After 50 years, we will not have a county to run because there will be a lot of natural calamities which will happen. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this motion.
The mover of the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me opportunity to sum up the motion. Thank you for the members for contribution. And we sum up the motion whereby we ask for the protection of the diversion, the obstruction, and also the degradation of the riparian areas. So we say that the very important, critical step to take here is for the sector to stand up and act accordingly. First, they should map, audit areas where these sand harvesting were done, identify those areas which are dangerous when they continue, scooping and harvesting the sand, especially at the upper stream, whereby the flow of the river, human activities. There are many other human activities which can also affect, apart from the sand. Also, the wildfire, and they degrade in different manners. But the harvesting, which is serious, we see that several lorries coming from Meru and other areas also harvesting sand. Yes, it is an income generative for us. It boosts our revenue, but as much as it boosts our revenue, if it's not controlled, it's going to damage the flow of the river and also affect now the livelihood of the human, for human consumption, the livestock, and also those who do agricultural activities around the area. So we are urging the department, the CECM of the department, and the committee of agriculture in the assembly to take up this motion seriously, and the recommendation from this motion seriously, so that they follow up and do the speaker. They have taken
Sources by enforcing strict regulation on sand harvesting and water obstruction along the rivers. That aware that county is predominantly arid and semi-arid and depends on seasonal and perennial rivers as the main source of domestic livestock and agricultural water. Consider that uncontrolled sand harvesting, illegal river diversion, and obstruction along riverbeds have led to severe environmental degradation, destruction of riparian ecosystem, reduced water flows, and increased conflict over scarce water resources. Acknowledging that Article 42 and Article 43 1D of the Constitution of Kenya guarantees every person the right to clean and healthy environments, and to clean and save water in adequate quantities, and that Article 69 obligates both the states and citizens to protect and conserve the environments. Appreciating that implementation of specific national government policies on natural resource and environmental conservation, including soil and water conservation and forestry, is a function of county governments according to the 4th schedule of the Constitution. Noting that Environmental Management and Coordination Act, EMCA 1999, and Water Act 2016, and the Natural Sand Harvesting Guidelines 2007 provide a legal framework for regulating sand harvesting, water abstraction, and protection of riparian reserves. This assembly resolved that the CECM undertake a countrywide audit and mapping of all rivers, riparian reserves, and water intake points to identify degrades, sites, illegal diversion, and critical water sources requiring urgent protection. And 2, the county government allocates sufficient fund for enforcement, restoration, and community sensitization programs on sustainable water sources protection. As many of these opinions say aye,
Aye.
as many of contrary opinions say nay, the ayes have it. This House stands adjourned until Wednesday, 3rd September 2025 at 2:30 p.m. At 9 a.m. So